Welcome. Just as we gather this morning, let's just begin in prayer. Maybe together we can pray. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. God our Father, you have a plan for each one of us. You hold out to us a future full of hope. Give us the wisdom of your Spirit so that we can see the shape of your plan in the gifts you have given us and in the circumstances of our daily lives. Give us the freedom of your Spirit to seek you with all our hearts and to choose your will above all else. We make this prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Do you ever wonder what the Catholic Church in America will be like 10 or 20 years from now? People ask me that all the time. I was in Europe again this summer for some meetings, and their churches are empty. Lots of them have more tourists in them than believers. In some ways, their churches seem more like museums than vibrant communities. I was the youngest person at Mass, and I looked around thinking to myself, where are the young people? Where are the teenagers? Where are the young families? Where are the young professionals? Where is the next generation? What will the Catholic Church in America be like 20 years from now? I'm not sure. And the reason I'm not sure is because I don't know what role you are going to play. The truth is, you and I get to answer that question because what we do every day will determine what the church will be like in the future. I know what I would like the church to be like 20 years from now. I envision a church meeting people where they are and leading them to where God is calling them to be. I envision a church where parishes are so dynamic and serving people so powerfully, the parishioners want to spend more time there, not just on Sundays, but every day of the week. I envision a church that is overflowing with bold and generous men and women who understand the genius of Catholicism and are striving to live it in every area of their lives. I envision a church where every diocese, parish, and Catholic is hungry for best practices and committed to continuous learning. I envision a church helping the less fortunate in more meaningful and sustainable ways than ever before. I envision a church where every Catholic is proud to say, I love being Catholic. If it were up to me, this is what the church would be like in America 20 years from now. But it's not just up to me, it's up to you too. As human beings, God has given us incredible gifts, but two that are astounding. The first is free will. You can say, I am going to do this or I'm not going to do that. When you really stop and think about it, free will is an astounding gift. The second is the ability to dream. As human beings, we have the ability to look into the future, imagine something bigger and better in the future, and then come back into the present and work in the present to bring about that future we've dreamed of. It's time for us as Catholics to start dreaming again. Something wonderful is happening, and I want to invite you to be a part of it. Imagine what we could do. Imagine what we could accomplish together over the next 20, 50, 100 years. It's time for Catholics to stand up, boldly envision an incredible future, and get involved. Now is our time. Are you ready?
So any of you ever heard Matthew Kelly before? So that's the guy who was speaking. He's got that amazing Australian accent that you can listen to for forever and ever. But Matthew Kelly founded an organization called Dynamic Catholic, which has really been around for a number of years, really focused on trying to figure out ways of helping Catholic parishioners, Catholic individuals, to really play more a role in revitalizing their parishes and the church as a whole. They've started with a number of things that you may have seen in the past. He started a book program where they're publishing books that are affordable, but good Catholic books. So a lot of parishes, like at Christmas, they'll give everybody a free book. So he had a popular book a number of years ago called Rediscovering Catholicism. He's had a series of books that have had a lot of CDs and stuff that they've been getting out to people. But they've been doing, over the last few years, a series of studies of Catholicism throughout the United States and then also kind of globally, trying to look at ways in which, who are the really effective parishioners and Catholics, and how do we get more people excited? And in the business world, oftentimes they talk about something called the 80-20 principle. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. But basically, it's this principle. It's fairly common that 80% of the work is usually done by 20% of the people. And what Matthew Kelly and Dynamic Catholic found out was that it's very similar within our Catholic parishes, except it's not 80-20. It's more like 97-3. Like 3% of our parishioners are doing like 97% of the work. 3% of our parishioners are basically paying 97% of the collection and the charitable donations given to a parish. And so what he started really thinking about was, okay, how do we get, our goal ultimately should be 100%, but let's be realistic. How do we go from 3 to 5%? How do we get 2% more dynamic, engaged Catholics? And so one of the things that he noticed was that there are basically 4 common attributes of somebody who is really engaged in their Catholic faith. And those 4 things are a prayer life, that they study, that they give in some way, and that they themselves evangelize. And so he calls these the 4 signs of a dynamic Catholic. And part of what they've been trying to do is figure out a way of creating programs that help Catholics to become more engaged, that really focus on these four elements. So anyway, just to give you a little bit of a history, when I first arrived as a pastor, I haven't even been here a full year yet, but I've been thinking a lot about this parish, and there's a lot of challenges that we've faced in this parish over the last decade or two, and a lot of where we're at today is the result of things that we didn't have a lot of control over and things that have happened over the last decade. But one of the things I do get a sense from parishioners is a sincere desire for a more engaging experience of their church and their parish. Both like at Mass, what we're doing on Sunday when we gather together as a community, but also like how we interact with the broader community. A number of people have said to me, like, they notice other churches are doing things like social outreach, they're doing things for the poor in the town, and they kind of wonder why we don't do that. So one little caveat is oftentimes as Catholics we don't really tell people a lot of times what we're doing, so sometimes we're not aware of all of the good that we're doing. But the point is that ultimately there's a desire within the parish for a more engaging experience in Mass and outside of Mass. And so I've been thinking a lot about that, and how do I as a pastor help you as a parish to make that a reality? How do we do it? So the challenges that we face, people are quick to tell you that we're not as young as we used to be, and we don't have the numbers that we used to have. We tend, along the same lines of the 97-3, we tend to have a very small number of volunteers that are pretty much doing everything. And they've been doing it now for several decades. And so many of them are tired. I mean, they're not as young as they used to be. Many of them are tired. And what I'll hear from a lot of them is this idea that we ask people to help, we ask people to volunteer, and they don't, okay? Then I will talk to other people who, want to be more involved in the parish, and they will say something kind of contradictory. They will say, I've told people I want to help and nobody's called me. Or I filled out a form, or I gave my information, or I came to an info session or something, and then there was no follow-through. So it seems to be like those two things are a little bit contradictory. But it seems like, at any rate, that there is within our parish a problem of inertia. There's very little momentum. We're doing some things, but we could be doing a lot more. And people kind of know that, and they want more from their church. We also struggle in that we're limited in terms of our staff. We don't have this large staff. I was recently, when I was out in Spain on the Camino, talking to somebody from Houston, Texas, where they have 6,000 people, 6,000 registered families in their church, right? We have 700, right? So they have 6,000, okay? So when you have 6,000, you have a big staff. I mean, they have 40 people on staff. I mean, so you can do a lot more when you have a lot more people and you have a lot more money. So that's one of the challenges that we face, is that we're limited not only in the number of parishioners, we have a limited staff, and we only have one priest. And I can only do so much. I can't do this all on my own. It's impossible for me as one person to turn this parish into this engaging, dynamic experience. Everything can't be dependent upon the priest. So we've got a lot of interesting challenges, but our challenges are not unique. Honestly, like these are challenges that are faced through pretty much every parish in the state of Maine, but also like parishes across the country. And like I think that's something that Dynamic Catholic has seen in looking at some of the statistical data. And there are programs and ways that parishes have tried to address that have been successful. So there are things like parish renewal programs like Curcio, like the Acts Retreat, various movements, Renew, Life in the Spirit Seminar. There are things that parishes have done that have helped them to kind of tap into the people and get people more on fire and more engaged. And so I've been thinking a lot about this over the last several months. What's maybe the one thing that we could do as a parish to kind of try to begin to start to build some new momentum in the parish and begin to kind of transform this parish from where it is right now to where I think it could be. So again, talking about the last couple of weekends about narrowing the gap, right? Like how do we get from where we are to where we could be? So early in the fall, sometimes I pay attention to when things happen in threes. Maybe that's Trinitarian of me, but when I see like 3 threes, that I'm like, oh, maybe God is trying to communicate with me. So I was thinking about this problem, and one day I got a telephone call. I was working with the parish council, and I went to Dynamic Catholic and I ordered the book Rediscovering Catholicism because I wanted to give that to the parish council so that everybody could read it, because we're having like a conversation about some of these issues as a parish council. So I ordered the book in like the morning, and then that afternoon I got a telephone call from a friend of mine who I didn't know, but he now like works for Dynamic Catholic. And he was like organizing this trip that I just went on in Spain, and they needed a priest to lead this pilgrimage, and he thought of me, so he called me. So like in one day I had like 2 Dynamic Catholic things happen, right? And what he told me about was how they have this parish renewal program, and I had never heard about that. He was really excited about it, and he started talking to me about that. And then I hung up the phone, and then like literally like an hour later, like Peter Cox came in with a copy of the parish renewal program in his hand from Dynamic Catholic, and he put it on my desk. He's like, "Have you ever heard of this?" I was like, "Okay, 1, 2, 3. God is trying to say something." So I was very much interested in that, and a couple of months ago, we were contacted by Dynamic Catholic to see if we would be interested in being part of a pilot program for them, like implementing this new parish renewal program that they're going to hopefully be trying to get out to as many parishes as possible in the future. What they've done is in their research, they found a program similar to Curcio, similar to Acts, called Christ Renews His Parish. It's been around since the 1960s, and it's been very effective. What they've done is they've purchased the rights to it, and what they're doing is they're revamping it so that it's all a little more high-tech and you get decent videos and all of that, but they're kind of redoing it, and they want us to be part of their pilot program, testing out their revisions, getting it ready for mass distribution. So I agreed to that after consultation with a couple of parishioners who I thought might be able to kind of help me implement it. And so just to give you a little bit more information about what that program is, again, it used to be called Christ Renews His Parish, and it's being rebranded under Dynamic Catholic to be something called Welcome.
I have some really good news about Christ Renews His Parish. I'm Alan Hunt. I'm the Senior Advisor at Dynamic Catholic. And you may already know that we've been researching Catholicism in America for a number of years. And one of the key things that we found that kind of surprised us, to be honest, is that Christ Renews His Parish really triggers people's faith. It triggers it in a remarkable way. We heard it over and over and over again. And the church just doesn't have very many of those moments that really kind of catalyze people or propel them forward. But Christ Renews His Parish not only does it often, it does it well. So several years ago, the opportunity arose for us at Dynamic Catholic to absorb Christ Renews His Parish. And we have a dream. We have a dream to see Christ Renews His Parish in every parish in America. Because we're not guessing, we're not hoping that it can change the church. We know it can. And we're committed to providing the best resources to help parishes create more engaged Catholics all across the country. As we've been talking to people across the country, one of the things that we've heard most often from people who work on Christ Renews His Parish is, how do we help motivate people in the pews to go on the weekend? After all, most people in the pew know that something is missing in their lives, and they want help with that. And we know that most of us who are in a parish We really want to feel a sense of connection, a sense of family, a sense of home in that parish. And a lot of times that community is missing. People long to feel a part of a family. They long to belong. We all desire to feel welcome. And so we've been thinking about that as we've been trying to solve that key question of how do we help get people to go on the Christ Renews His Parish weekend. And for these reasons, we're calling this updated version of Christ Renews His Parish Welcome. We're calling it Welcome because we all want a community. We all want a home. We all want to find our place in our parish family, and frankly, we all want to find our place in the family of God. And we want to help welcome people into that journey. And we believe, and really I think we know, that this updated version of Christ Renews His Parish that we'll call Welcome will do just that.
Okay, so Welcome is essentially, it's a parish renewal process. It's a retreat weekend, but the way that the retreat is structured, what they try to do, and how it fits into the life of the parish is meant to really kind of revitalize parishes. So really the center of it is this retreat weekend, which in April of 2018 we'll have our first men's and women's, there's separate men's and women's retreats. During the retreat, it's sort of an overnight retreat. What's unique about Welcome as compared to like things like Curcio or Acts is that the focus is very much on the parish, and the retreat is done by parishioners. So it's very parish-focused, parish-centric. In other type renewal programs, like oftentimes people leave the parish, they go to some retreat center, or they go to another parish, maybe several parishes over, or maybe even another state. Or they do something local, but then they have like parishioners from another church or people who run the program from another state come and do it. Whereas Welcome is really focused on us. And so at the core of the weekend is faith sharing. It's going to be several witness talks given on a couple of things, a couple of key ideas. But what you're hearing is you're hearing the faith journey, the faith story of people that you sit in the pew with every single Sunday. So part of what it does is it helps us to get to know each other as a parish. Now, part of the way that it brings about renewal in a parish is that having had this sort of common experience, once you have a number of people in the parish that are used to talking about their faith and are comfortable talking about their faith, that changes the dynamic of any parish. And then on top of that, if what we're working on right now is a leadership team, training a leadership team to host the retreat. What we'll do at the end of the retreat is we'll ask people who have attended the retreat to consider being part of the next leadership team. And so what will happen is after a couple of years, you'll have had like a large number of people who have gone through the retreat. Many people have also been leaders and hosted the retreat. What you'll start to have is a large, sort of, for lack of a better term, a large crop of parishioners who now all have, they're equipped to now do any ministry within the parish. If they want to be an usher, if they want to be a Eucharistic minister, if they want to start a Bible study, they'd be like, go for it. Because at the core of all of those ministries, what we've got to do is we've got to be able to share our faith journey. We've got to be able to reflect upon the experience of faith. And so I think what it does is it helps create leadership within the parish. So it's not just father and then everybody else, right? But it's like we now have a large kind of population of just engaged parishioners that are capable of doing all kinds of things. That we can do a lot with that can really get the momentum going. So again, at the core of this whole thing is this notion of like sharing our faith. So the way that it works is participants attend a 2-day retreat, one overnight. Again, after attending the renewal weekend, and participants are invited to consider serving on the next Welcome team. And again, this, I think after a couple of years, this will lead us to having a large population of parishioners that are prepared and equipped for ministry. Okay. So part of the challenge for us is the way that it's really structured is that once it's established, it kind of hopefully self-replicates. It just keeps itself going because you're always asking participants to consider being part of the next leadership team. The challenge for us is that we have never done it before. And so we don't have this group of people who have already had the experience that are capable of leading it. So part of what we're doing this year is we're trying to build a leadership team, and then we're going to do all the formation work of that leadership team, kind of preparing them almost as if they had gone through the retreat themselves. But for all of us, this April will be the first time we all go through it. So the bulk of the work for the leadership team is really going to be on the level of like learning how to share our faith and getting to know each other, and doing some of the things that we would do on the retreat if it already existed. And the basic thing for me in a lot of this is what we're trying to do is we're trying to give parishioners an experience of Christ in our parish. And we cannot give to somebody, it's a basic scholastic principle, you cannot give to somebody something that you do not have. So the big part for us in terms of the leadership preparation and formation this year is we need to get to a point where we have experienced Christ in our parish. And we're prepared to then talk to people and share that experience with others. So I think as we begin to talk about the commitment and what's involved with being part of the leadership, yeah, there's going to be a lot of practical little details, but for me, the most essential element is this element of formation. That we ourselves need to get to know each other, we need to share our faith with each other, we need to grow in our faith so that we can help parishioners in the parish to do the same. So for me, that also means that what we're doing in terms of the leadership formation between now and April is kind of exciting. I suspect we'll probably, for everybody involved in it, we'll probably get more out of it than we realize, maybe even more than we put into it. So basically the way that it's structured is in April of 2018, we're going to have separate retreats for men and women. Therefore, there have to be two separate men's and women's sort of retreat teams. The retreat teams consist of a seed team, which we've already formed and we've been kind of working together already, and a giving team. The seed teams, they're the ones that kind of are providing a lot of the initial leadership and the support for the giving teams in preparation for executing the retreat in April. The giving team consists of about 15 men and 15 women who will, during the retreat, will lead the retreat in some capacity. And so the seed teams, and I forgot to fix this, the three men, the formation lead would be myself, the retreat leader is Peter Koch, and the facilities leader is Peter Cox. So I got both of the Peters here. If you don't know, could you stand up and just wave hi? Peter Koch, Peter Cox. And then our women's seed team, the formation leader is Mary Schulz, the retreat leader is Cheryl Cox, and the facilities leader is Deborah Lauren Iser, and all of them are here too. Look at that. Would you just stand up so everybody can see you? So Cheryl, Mary, Deborah. Okay, so these 5, 6, if you count me, individuals, we've already been working on this. We're kind of planning this and talking. And so over the last month or so, we've all been praying about this retreat and thinking about who in the parish might be able to help us, who might be able to give a decent kind of witness during the retreats. Who are the people in the parish that are, the dynamic, engaged Catholics? And for many of you, you were people that came to us in prayer and in thoughts. And so we wanted to try to have this information session to kind of give people some information. But basically, the giving team, these 15 people on this team, 6 of them are going to be witnesses. These will be people who are sharing their faith journey. There's a series of topics that we'll get more into as we prepare for the retreat. But these people will be kind of sharing their story as it pertains to this particular topic. And then probably about 6 others will be table leaders. So they will be after every talk, there'll be time where in small group to have conversations, to pray, and to kind of go deeper and to react to the talks. And so we'll have leaders in each kind of small group that their responsibility is kind of leading the group. In addition to that, there's a couple other kind of specialized functions. We'll have a sacristan who will kind of be responsible for setting up all the liturgies, the liturgist who will be kind of responsible for preparing the liturgies like music, etc., and then an assistant facilities leader, because there's a lot of kind of just basic stuff with having a retreat over the course of a weekend. So the general timeline for us is basically, right now we're looking at trying to build a leadership team. We're trying to get people to discern and make a commitment to the team. But once we've formed the team, sometime in August, we're going to meet together and kind of prepare a little bit, get a broader sense. We'll have more materials to get out, more specific stuff. But then starting in September, what we'll start doing is we'll have regular meetings, probably about 2 meetings per month. Now again, I recognize that it's probably a little daunting, but a bulk of these meetings I think is going to be like faith sharing. It's not going to be tedious like details. A lot of it's going to be getting to know each other and sharing our faith with each other. So we'll do that between now with the hope of like in April hosting that first retreat. So the invitation for all of you here today is basically just to invite you to consider joining us and being part of this retreat in April. I recognize that it involves making a commitment. We've talked to a number of people, and the sense sometimes is that people immediately, their first reaction is like, I'm busy, I've got a lot going on, how can I possibly do this? Well, I just want to stress that for us, the purpose of this program is to renew our parish. And so if you want something that you never had before, a friend of mine says, you got to be willing to do something you've never done before. And so if we have a parish where a lot of people want a more engaging, dynamic parish experience, and I think we do have that, then how is that ever going to become a reality if no one is willing to step up and make that commitment to try to do something different to make that a reality? I don't think that what we're asking is meant to be drudgery. Like I said, most of these meetings are going to be about sharing our faith with each other, talking to each other. My thought would be that, if we jump ahead 20 years to this engaging parish that Matthew Kelly talks about, if you think of the types of things that you would want to do, that you would want to be part of in this parish, like we have an opportunity to kind of do some of that now. And if you're unable to do it now, what makes you think you're going to be willing to do it 20 years from now? And so I just really invite you to really think about it and discern if this is something that you might be able to be part of. As we were talking about it, I think our goal in this is to be flexible. Our goal is to kind of figure things out. I don't know how it's all going to work. Right? I don't have this grand plan. I don't have some kind of rigid thing that I need to fit everybody into to make it all work. I think that what I do know is very simple. I know Jesus Christ, right? I know His church. I know that it's possible with His Holy Spirit. What we need to do as a parish, if we're going to get to where we're going, I think in 20 years, then we need to learn as a parish how to pray, how to take our challenges to God, how to talk with each other, how to discern together, how to find solutions to problems together, right? Like if we can do that, then it's possible to do this thing that we want in 20 years from now. So we have an opportunity to start that now. And so in a way, like I'm looking at this, and the way that it functions in terms of parish renewal is really as a microcosm. Like we get to start kind of small, but if this works, it has the possibility of expanding out and really just renewing our whole parish. So in terms of like some of the challenge that we'll face, I'm hoping that what we'll do is we'll be able to work some of these things out together. So somebody might say, like, how can I make a commitment to something? I don't know. I might get called out. I have a pretty busy schedule, or I have like an emergency or something. It'll be okay, right? What we're asking you is to make a goodwill effort to be able to attend as many of these things as you can. And if you miss it, like we'll figure out as a group, like how to reconnect. We'll figure that kind of stuff out. Mature adults can figure that kind of stuff out. But what I want you to do is consider whether or not you can make like a serious effort to be able to attend as many of these as possible within reason. All right. So again, like I'm really struck by Matthew Kelly's opening remarks and this idea of like just kind of dreaming or envisioning what a parish might look like into the future. What do you envision our parish looking like in 20 years? And again, his point in all of that was like, I don't know if that's possible because what I don't know is what you're going to do, right? The future completely depends on the level of commitment that you are willing to make. And so again, if we as a parish want a more engaging, dynamic parish 5, 10, 20 years from now, then what are you willing to do about it? Because if we don't do something like now, like right here, if not us, then what, when, and who else, right? I mean, nothing will change if nobody is willing to do anything. So what I'd like you to do is just kind of as, just a little prayer exercise, and then we'll kind of just close, and maybe if you have questions, we can talk about it. But Cheryl's going to hand out a piece of paper. You don't have to put your name on it. And Peter's got some pens. What I just want you to do is think about this idea of where do you see our parish? Where do you want our parish to be in 20 years? Like, what would that look like for you? Just spend some time thinking, just imagining or dreaming about our parish 20 years from now.